Hey, what's up, fantasy football players? Matthew Bellman and Ryan Kostrowski here. This is the DFS 5-pack. If you're new to the station, you like talking daily fantasy sports, and year-long in this case, hit that red button that says subscribe, hit the bell for notifications, thumbs up. It's always appreciated. With sports being on hiatus, we're really pounding out the fantasy football stuff early and often. Get a big jump on this year. Definitely has me, that and the 2-month absence of sports definitely has me, ready for football season.
I feel like this is the earliest and most I've ever gotten into fantasy football. Usually we're 50 games into the baseball season at this point, so football is on the back burner, but not this year.
Not this year. Got to change up everything current, because of COVID-19 or coronavirus or quarantine or whatever you want to refer it to, guys. I am psyched for sports to come back, play some DK, play some FanDuel for you guys. Check out Overlay Fantasy Sports when the time is right. We're bringing them up because this is a video that actually has a shelf life of about 4 months, unlike most of our DFS stuff, which is only good for about a day. There will be football contests up. We will be talking about them, but the name of the website is Overlay Fantasy Sports. They are a show sponsor. Go give them a whirl. And we are here today to talk about a guy that I was very high on a lot the last 2 seasons. Some to my detriment occasionally in DFS. But he paid off handsomely last year and year-long as I owned Aaron Jones in a large number of my year-long fantasy drafts. I don't think it'll be the same case this year, though.
I can say with certainty that it will not be the case for you, and it will not be the case for me either. It seems like he's still going. He's still being drafted based on his year last year and not really considering the A.J. Dillon pickup. So I know where you stand on this, but I'm interested to talk it out in some detail.
Definitely. And I think he's a guy who might fall as the months go by and more people kind of prepare for it. What's that?
I'm with you. I feel this similarly about him and Nick Chubb.
Maybe they won't. Maybe we're wrong, but I definitely feel like those are 2 guys that people are going to start to reevaluate the situation as we get closer to the season. Now, again, if we get some preseason information and things change, obviously we'll take that into account. It's May. We fully understand the season's almost 4 months away, and drafts are still about 3 months away.
Mm-hmm.
Once again, guys, like and subscribe. So we're going to go over again my Packers. We brought this up when we went through Alan Lazard the other day. This is 2nd year of Coach LaFleur. 2nd year is offensive coordinator Hackett. Injury concerns with Aaron Jones? I mean, really none. He played 16 games last year. And if you want to count the playoffs, all 18. Seems to be healthy as a horse.
Yeah, no injury concerns, at least off the bat. No doubt about it.
So I think one of the things to talk about with Aaron Jones is he was very touchdown reliant last year for some of those monster games. He scored 19 times. That is high end. I don't know how many running back seasons where guys have totaled more than 19 touchdowns, but it can't be much more than 10, right?
I wouldn't think so.
Right? For 20-plus touchdown seasons, there's not a lot of them out there. He was very good, 4.6 yards per carry. He had a big couple of games within the receiving world. But a lot of those came when Devontae Adams were out, and they had to be very creative with how they used the running backs. So for me, I don't know exactly how you feel about this. I expect both touchdown regression and reception regression, in my personal opinion.
Yeah, I don't disagree with you at all. Obviously, you've really got your, you know the pulse of the Packers, and I know this is a guy that we've kind of talked about him and alluded to him all offseason. I definitely expect the touchdowns to go down. For me, I don't know about the passing game work. It makes sense that it would go down because, like you said, a lot of his bigger numbers came when Adams was out.
Fully assuming Adams is healthy, right?
The flip side of that is I still consider Aaron Jones to be the Packers. I mean, he's right behind Devontae Adams as their second best offensive player in my mind, with Aaron Rodgers on the last legs of his career. So they should still be getting him the ball. I don't know how much of a role A.J. Dillon's going to have, but I'm not going to be shocked if he has like a similar workload,
I wouldn't be flabbergasted by it. I feel more comfortable calling for receiving and touchdown regression than I do for overall rushing yardage. My thoughts on this one were how many times last year, and Jamal Williams isn't terrible, but he's obviously not a guy that really moves the needle. Were you watching the game, you're like, why is Williams getting the ball? Why is Williams getting the ball? Now they bring in Dillon, who is like 3rd guy, 2nd round pick, when clearly you had a Pro Bowl running back last year. I mean, they are making the move, in my opinion, to look more like the Tennessee Titans with a Derrick Henry type, to run a lot more play action effectively that way. I could see A.J. Dillon getting goal line work, definitely more work between the 20s. I don't feel very comfortable with taking Aaron Jones in the first few rounds next year at all. I couldn't do it.
I think that's the point, though. Like, we don't know what type of workload A.J. Dillon's going to have. We don't know how much less of a workload Aaron Jones is going to have. But he's still being drafted in, like, the top 3 rounds. So, putting all that stuff into the pot, he is no longer a top 3-round pick for me with all those question marks surrounding him.
No doubt about it. You just think about everybody listening to this probably has watched hundreds of football games in their life. How many times, and we see it occasionally, but when you got a big bruising banger back and you're, in the vicinity the 2 or 3 yard line down to the goal line, and you got a smaller guy like Aaron Jones, not saying that Jones can't effectively run the ball between the tackles. He's a small guy. He can wiggle his way through there. But usually, traditionally, you watch head coaches bring in the big, large back for short yardage like that. Think LeGarrette Blount, things like that. That's usually where they go.
So, yes, and yes. So a couple of things. One, like, Jamal Williams had a role last year. I know we talked about that a bunch, how when they were both healthy, they were both getting touches. It wasn't like a bell cow type situation. Obviously, Aaron Jones was the number 1 guy, but it wasn't like a Saquon Barkley type situation at all. Williams was still getting work. And for me, there's that. But then you also throw in the fact that they drafted A.J. Dillon. And just to touch on that for a second, because I know we've gone over, how valuable these second-round picks are. But even to take that a step further, everyone knows, Green Bay knows, Matt LaFleur knows that they did not use any of those picks to, help Aaron Rodgers on offense, getting a receiver, tight end, or anything like that. So I would be shocked, surprised if A.J. Dillon did not have a really nice role this year. I mean, they need that pick to pay off in order for a little bit of the criticism to go away. He's very good. I think he steps in right away and has a role.
I think he has a big role right away because I think in the mind of Coach LaFleur, he sees the way that Tennessee was building, and he likes that. He wants to hit you with that big, bruising, large-bodied back, wear down your defense, and then eventually, once you are so sick of hitting him and you pull those safeties up, now he's going to get you at the play action. Very similar to the way Tennessee did it a lot last year with Ryan Tannehill, who I believe led the league in quarterback rating on play action. Don't quote me on that, but I'm pretty sure that's what it was. That's the way he wants to build his offense. And as good as Aaron Jones is, it's not quite the same effect when you have like a littler player like him who gets you more with his elusivity as versus heavy poundage, I guess.
Definitely, he's not wearing out the defense. But
no.
I mean, that's the truth of the matter.
Maybe mentally as you always prepare for the big play, but not physically the way a big guy just by the end of the game you're like, dude, I don't want to hit this guy again.
No doubt about it. And there's always the chance that, rookie coming in could not be as good as they want him to be and not be as good as expected. But he will be given many, many opportunities as that second-round pick.
Right? Like we talked about it with like David Johnson, I forget who the other guy was. Like they are definitely, when you spend a second-round pick on a running back, when you had a running back who played very well for you last season, you're clearly saying this is where I want to go. And you're a little bit tied to him.
And it like goes even further than that for Green Bay too, because they took a quarterback in the first round, a guy that's not going to help them this year. And then instead of taking any other position on the offense to help Aaron Rodgers, they took the running back. They need the running back to play right away.
Yeah, man, totally, for sure. So, we kind of mentioned this when we did the Allen Lazard video the other day. Not a lot of major changes on the Green Bay offense with, the exceptions of they added Devin Funchess, they lost Geronimo Allison and Jimmy Graham. That's, at this point, I can see why Funchess would be better than those guys, but we can only consider that a lateral move right now and then bring in A.J. Dillon is the big move that we're talking about. They lost Bulaga at right tackle as well, but they brought in another guy. Not a lot of major changing with the exception of what they did with the draft. So, and we've touched on some of this stuff already. Like, clearly, whether or not Coach LaFleur is a believer in Aaron Jones or not, he wants to run the ball, but he's bringing in another guy. That's a big, big problem for Aaron Jones. We mentioned the touchdown regression is all but guaranteed. I don't think anybody in the world, if you gave them even odds, if you asked 1,000 people who bet sports, is he going to go over 19 touchdowns or under with no odds or anything like that? I think 100 people or 1,000 people whatever would vote the over or the under.
For sure. And this is also a case, like, I don't even, if Matt LaFleur comes out and talks about how much he loves Aaron Jones and blah, 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 I will not be believing it because actions speak louder than words.
Lip service, right?
Their actions were taking a running back in the second round.
Exactly. And how many times did we watch Aaron Jones after Davante Adams came back last year? And you can blame LaFleur or you can blame Aaron Rodgers or maybe a little bit of both. Did we have games where Aaron Jones didn't even get a look in the passing game? They're like, how good was this guy while Adams was out? Why is he not part of the passing game again? And LaFleur, stepped up, I think, 2 different occasions last year. Was like, yeah, that's my foul. He needs to be involved in the passing game. And then they just never get him the ball there.
Yeah, definitely something that it's in the back of my mind, too. Because I remember he had a couple, monster games. He had that one monster game against Dallas on Monday night. Or on Sunday night, and he had a couple others like that. But there were a few games in between there where he just didn't get any looks in the passing game.
Right, like that. I think it was actually a Sunday afternoon game when they played Dallas, and you're right. Like, he helped us win our DFS lineups that day, and his touchdowns were amazing. And then I think he had like a third of his receiving yards in that one game against Kansas City.
Yeah, exactly. So I'm with you. Definitely a lot of question marks surrounding him. And to be honest, we talked about, where do you – okay, just who would you rather? Aaron Jones or David Johnson?
David Johnson.
I
think Aaron Jones is a lot better than David Johnson right now.
So do I. I mean, if one of these guys, fell apart and did nothing, I would venture it would be David Johnson.
Right, and I don't like David Johnson this year. So it's not that – that's how little I like Aaron Jones. I could be wrong. I hope I am wrong, and Green Bay plays well this year. I don't have a lot of faith in them getting him the ball the way that he needs it to be. I also think unless A.J. Dillon gets hurt, the potential upside of Aaron Jones is small this year. I could absolutely, and we saw it the first 2 years when everybody watching the Packers was like, why isn't Mike McCarthy getting this guy the ball? And then we finally saw him get his touches last year, and he was big time. I really would not be surprised at all if Aaron Jones goes back to 10 touches a game and maybe less some weeks.
I really like him, too. I don't get it. I really like the cut of his jib. I like the way he carries himself. I feel like he's got a little bit of a raw deal here, not going to lie.
Yeah, it definitely seems like, McCarthy had it this way, and then LaFleur comes in, he gets his touch.
Guy.
Yeah, it's not his guy. Like, what does this guy have to do to show
Right?
you how good he is? He's averaged 5.5, and 4.6 yards per carry. He took a big bump up in the passing game. He has a nose for the end zone. As much as I talked about them getting A.J. Dillon the rock inside the 5-yard line, Aaron Jones was incredible last year for a small back at finding ways to get in the end zone when they would run it on first and second. One of the reasons Aaron Rodgers didn't have a lot of touchdown passes is Aaron Jones had a nose for the end zone, his ability to get in there. Like, what does this guy have to do to prove to you he can play the game of football at a very high level?
It's actually a shame because last year we were talking about him as this is going to be finally the year where they give him the opportunity. He gets touches. He's really involved in the passing game. And what does he do? Average over 5 yards a touch and 19 touchdowns. And now it's almost like we're going back to 2 years ago. I feel bad for the dude.
Yeah, I don't know what his contract is off the top of my head, but I have to assume this is it for him. Like, whenever his contract's up, they're probably done with him. And I get running backs have a shorter, shelf life and everything like that. But, this will be his 4th year. Aren't rookie deals usually 4 years?
Yeah, and he's good. I don't get this one.
I don't get it either. I think the common sense approach to anybody last year was get a receiver in an early round pick.
Right.
Get something.
It baffles me that they took a running back here. And I get it. They want to run big. You can get a big running back. You know what I mean? You don't need to use a second-round pick on him.
I mean, we've seen running backs in the 3rd, 4th, 5th, 6th round repeatedly be successful. We joked around about Ryan Matthews the other day and spending an early round pick on somebody from a running back. Yeah, sometimes you get an Ezekiel Elliott, you get a Saquon Barkley and stuff like that, but there's a lot of early round there's a lot of picks that don't work out early on running backs and lots of ones later on that do. I'm sure there's a difference in 1st round versus 7th round. I'm not pretending like there isn't, but it just doesn't make a lot of sense.
It just doesn't, man, for a team that was that. It just really doesn't. I mean, I hope that A.J. Dillon is really good for his sake and for the Packers front office sake. It's crazy. We talk about this and we talked about how valuable these second-round picks are, and it almost just doesn't add up. The fact that they used this early second-round pick on him with – they could have done so many other things. It's baffling to me.
Very baffling. Unless this works out real well, it definitely seems like this is going to be something that's going to go. I mean, you've got to have both Jordan Love be awesome, and they may not even be around to see that. Like, if the Packers stink this year, like, that's going to be – let's just say that maybe not stink, go 7-9 or something like that. You know, Devontae Adams gets hurt and they just have no way to move the ball anymore. Like, this is going to look really bad for these guys.
Yeah, you made the point. We talked about Jordan Love. Like, that was a head scratcher.
Mm-hmm.
Like, if you believe that that's your guy and you want that guy, you think he's going to be the quarterback of the future, I get it. But to double down and take a running back there, and I like A.J. Dillon, win away from the from the Super Bowl. You had a guy that scored 20 touchdowns last year. I think this is just a simple case of overthinking it. And you mentioned another point, a couple weeks ago about how LaFleur seems to have gotten a little bit big-headed because of what the success the Packers had last year. And I think he needs to take a step back and not bite the hand that feeds him.
Yeah, man. It reminds me, we made the DFS comparison of okay, so one day you pick a guy, there's a chalk center at 60% ownership in a crush spot, and you go with your gut and pick a guy who's 2% owned, and the guy who's 2% owned has the game of his life, and the guy who's chalk is just blah, fine, and you look like a genius. So it worked out for you that day. The next time around, the same situation comes up, and your guy doesn't work out. You take such a risk by going with that low-owned guy there that when it doesn't work out, you look kind of dumb, whereas if you had just done the common sense approach, what everybody would have thought right here and drafted a wide receiver, even if you had failed, you hadn't looked so dumb on it. And it's not exactly the same thing, but like you're really tying. Yeah, you're really tying your career to Jordan Love and A.J. Dillon.
Like, why? It doesn't make sense. Why not just draft a receiver? Because, again, perception is reality, especially in pro sports, especially right now when there's nothing going on. Such a bad look for the Packers. It really is. And we keep talking about it. I know you're a Green Bay fan, but this is one of the weirdest drafts I've ever seen in any sport.
And so, like, even if it works out, people are still going to be like, yeah, okay, you got it. It worked out. But they're still going to question it. You've got to nail it. Jordan Love has to legitimately be like a perennial Pro Bowler for this one to look good.
Yeah,
because if he's not,
sorry, go ahead.
I would say, and if it's not, yeah, it's just going to be a bad look for a long time.
Because you were so close last year, a game away, and I get it, you got stopped by San Francisco, but I mean, you were a game away from the Super Bowl, and it seems like they're farther than that now.
All right, so for Packer fans might remember this. Go back 15 years or whatever it was. And I think Green Bay had like the 7th overall pick, and they took A.J. Hawk. Now, was A.J. Hawk a difference maker on the professional level? Nah.
No.
He was a maybe slightly above average linebacker,
he was
right?
solid.
He was all right, right? Maybe a 6 on a scale of 10. Not worth the early first-round pick, but at least he had a long career. He was on the Super Bowl champion team. He was a starter for a long time. You didn't think of him as a black hole on the offense. So, while it didn't work out, and you wish it could have worked out better, you don't look terrible because a lot of people thought he should go there. Okay, so that's a first-round pick that wasn't great. Think about Justin Harrell the year before that or the year after that. When you reach 2 or 3 rounds early, the guy never amounted to anything. Everybody on ESPN was like, hold up, what? Why did you take this guy in the first round? Nobody else was even eyeing him up until the 3rd round. That's the one. Even though neither of these were great, that's the one that everybody remembers is Justin Harrell. And it's like you reach for a guy, and it was a terrible idea. And that's the one that I think people always associate with Ted Thompson.
It is. I mean, no doubt about it. You're right about A.J. Hawk. He wasn't a great pro, but everyone was wrong on him. Everyone expected to be better. It wasn't just Ted Thompson. You know what I mean?
Yeah, exactly. And A.J. Hawk was drafted, I think, at least 10 spots earlier in the draft than Justin Harrell. Again, he didn't move the needle, but at least he was a starter for 6, 7, 8 years or whatever it was. He played. I mean, he was at least, you didn't have to worry about drafting an inside linebacker every single year to replace him. You're just like, we'll live what this guy is. He's a C+, B- player.
Mm-hmm.
So, as you can tell, We're looking at Aaron Jones going anywhere from like early second to mid third round. For me personally, I wouldn't take him in the first 4 rounds. And I know that this is a guy that I have talked positively about for so long. You mentioned it the other day, kind of the same that we stole from somebody else, is fantasies about opportunity and talent. The talent's still there. I am not a believer in the opportunity at all.
It's a shame, too. We've said it a bunch this video, but this has been the story for him besides last year, and he finally had a breakout year, and now it's going back out with before that. I legitimately feel for this dude.
If running backs had any trade value at all, I would almost think Green Bay was looking to move him, right? You don't get any trade value from a running back.
No, running backs like that just are hardly dealt, because what are you going to get, like a fifth-round pick?
Right, it's just not worth it.
No, yeah, man. I'm interested to see, like, next year, though, if Aaron Jones can get a spot where he's the guy.
Maybe. People seem to be so turned off by the idea that a small running back can handle a bigger workload. Like, they just don't believe it. Like, you watch in New Orleans where, like, as good as Alvin Kamara is, like, they seem very hesitant to give him more than maybe like 15 touches per game, unless it's for like a short stopgap, like when Ingram was suspended for 4 games. They went real heavy on him, and then they brought it on back.
True.
Christian McCaffrey seems to be the only smaller running back people feel comfortable with, and it's kind of like Aaron Jones in the same way as McCaffrey. Like, these dudes don't get hit hard.
Yeah, I like Aaron Jones. I mean, if it weren't for A.J. Dillon here, I'd be right back on the Aaron Jones train.
Absolutely. I'm 100% with you, but LaFleur seems very stubborn, and I think you kind of hit on it when you said, like, his ego's gotten too big, and he wants A.J. Dillon to be the guy, not Aaron Jones.
And it's not his guy. The other thing about this second-round pick, and I know we've harped on this a bunch, it almost seems like running backs, if you draft them in the second round, it's almost like using a first-round pick on them, because they just don't go high, except for if they're like the studs of the studs. I mean, the first running back went this year was Clyde Edwards-Helaire to Kansas City, and I mean, they're a team that really wasn't drafting. They had no needs, so they just drafted whoever they wanted. It's shocking to me that Green Bay went this route.
Yeah, same here. I'm with you. All those things. I mean, on an average year this year, would we get a running back going in the first round like every other season?
Yeah, and like A.J. Dillon is good. I like him, but he also wasn't a guy that was, he fell in the second round. He was supposed to go in the late second, early third.
I don't know, man. We'll see what happens this year. Anyways, guys, thanks a lot for watching. We're going to hop into Kenny Galladay here in about 15 minutes as well. So for those of you interested in Mr. Galladay, he will be the next guy up. Like that kid. He can play. So ready to talk about him as well.
Yeah, staying in the NFC North tip. Excited to talk to the next one out with you.
All right, guys. Thank you very much. Thumbs up is always appreciated.
Thank you.